they'll lynch you. But he did, and he laughs at
Everybody watching the West Ham Network, hope you are all safe and well. The international break is finished. Thank Christ for that. And we're back on Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff, old school against Man City, top of the table. It's the Super Cup that we all really wanted. West Ham, the Europa Conference League against Man City, the Europa League, the Champions League winners. And as we've done for the last few weeks, we try and get someone on who's has a foot in both camps. So for that Chelsea game, we got Scott Minto on and stuff like that. And today I've got a friend of the channel. He's very tired. It was his brother's birthday yesterday. Night before he was out with Dev. Let's bring him in. Let's bring him Baldy. There he is. How you doing, mate?
I'll be in the morning, very early to London.
And we'll talk about that as well. It's very busy at the moment, isn't it, for you at the moment, with all these events and stuff?
Yeah, good, mate. It's a pleasure to be on, Russ, to be honest. And I'm looking forward to the game. It's going to be a great game because West Ham have had a great start, haven't they?
Superb start. And so have City as well. I mean, it's a top four clash.
Well, it could have been, the Bournemouth game. I think they could have won that. They could have been higher up the league, and it's going to be mouthwatering. And I love watching City, to be honest. And like I said, West Ham have had a great start, and they've got to go into the game with a lot of confidence, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, as you said, it seems. I mean, obviously, you're obviously involved with the ambassadors, and so obviously, doing all the lounges and stuff during the game, and obviously talking to lots of fans and stuff, and it just seems a different vibe to last season already, 4 games in.
Listen, everyone was terrified losing Declan, and it was a big blow for everyone, but the players that have come in have been brilliant, and I think that they've bought very, very well, which in the past you look at West Ham's buys and they haven't been the best. So recruitment has always been the key for me. And, Declan was going to be very, very hard to replace. But I think the start that they've had is magnificent. And like I said, it's going to be a great game tomorrow.
It is. And as I said, you got a foot in both camps, over 200 appearances for West Ham. And then obviously moving West Ham to City, about 67 appearances. Do you know, I was looking today for City, 16 goals. That puts you on par with Robinho for Man City goals. Did you know that?
Yeah, but you know what? A lot of them were penalties, Russ. I'll have to tell the truth. I just got the job. Listen, I had a good lad to look at, and he actually rang me on listen to this. On Wednesday night, I'm in the Tandoori Lounge, and we were talking about the last game. Neither one of the last games against Ipswich in the '86 season, and Ipswich had to win to stay up, and we had to win to keep in touch. And we're talking about. It was 2-2, I think, or 2-1, and I got a penalty, and I went down quite softly, which wasn't my way, but it was a pen. There was contact, and we were talking about the atmosphere that night, and the crowd were immense because they all thought we could go and win the league, and obviously as soon as we got the penalty, we knew we'd won the game because it was Ray Stewart.
Yeah,
his record, and about 2 minutes later, I hadn't turned my phone off. I'm on the mic and next minute, Ray Stewart's number come up. It was just unbelievable. And he went, "Wee man," I said, "Ray, I'm on the stage with Dev." He went, "Okay, I'll ring you tomorrow." But listen, I went to City from West Ham, and I would never have left West Ham if it wasn't for Lou Macari. But I don't really want to go into depth about that. And I'd have stayed there if the job would have, Bonzo would have took over.
Yeah.
But obviously, I went to City in a move with Bishop and Morley coming to West Ham, and I went to City. It was a bit complicated deal, but Mr. Howard Kendall, who was an idol of mine, most successful manager in the history of Everton Football Club, come back to the English game, and after being with Atletico Bilbao, and he said to me, "You're probably one of the best right-sided midfield players in the country, and Peter Reid wants you as much as me." So I went up to see him, and within 5 minutes, I knew I wanted to sign for the man.
Yeah, exactly.
I signed for Howard Kendall. I didn't sign for Man City. Put it that way.
Well, I talk about Everton while we're here. Obviously, the 777 ownership. What's going on with that? I don't know how I feel about that. As obviously Everton, obviously we talk about West Ham, talk about Man City, but obviously Everton, a club close to your heart as well. What do you think about that as well?
We're in very, very dire straits, to be honest, Everton. Yeah. And listen, when Everton play West Ham, I'm an Evertonian hammer. Yeah. West Ham are very close to my heart. It was the best team best club I played. You know, the football we played in '86 was outstanding. We talked about that the other night, and the stats and the records will always stand up. But you know, Everton, I was born an Evertonian, and you are. You know, it's like we've always been on the backside of Liverpool's success, but you know, the club hasn't been run very well in the last few years. And again, it's all about recruitment, and they haven't recruited very, very well. And the ownerships, I think it's got to change at the top. And if you get it right at the top, usually it all comes down. And I think, like, you know, Moyes, the board at West Ham have kept Moyes' faith, and they're reaping the rewards now.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely. I think it's quite. I think the one of the clubs I know 777 have got is Standard Liège, and they've gone hasn't gone very well for them since taking over. So sometimes it's one of those things, isn't it? You know, lots of ownerships, lots of clubs changing hands, and sometimes the grass isn't
exactly
green.
Russian. Like, you know, in my day, the Kearns family had the club at West Ham, and I remember David, because I used to knock about with one of David's employees. And he was his racing manager, so David had a lot of racehorses, and I used to go racing to Newmarket and everything, because David never used to turn up at the races, and we'd just represent him. And he was after West Ham in the 80s, and his friend Eamon said to me, "Mark, I'm telling you now, he will get West Ham one day." And at the time, because of his business interests, as we know, they wouldn't entertain him. But obviously, he went to Birmingham, and he got me there as his player coach. And inevitably, he got all the West Ham, and he got what he wanted.
Yeah, in a roundabout way, isn't it? In a roundabout way.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it, how things like that happen? It's just like by, you know, these sort of weird, and you get it with football. I mean, I imagine there's, you know, in terms of there's skill, but to be a player and to have a long career and get the right move at the right time, it's a bit of luck as well, and being in the right place at the right time as well. So, yeah, as I said, you know, he got West Ham eventually.
He did, yeah. And you know, listen, a lot of people, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'll tell you now, he's put his money where his mouth is, and you can't argue with that. I think in like a lot of clubs, including Everton, you know, the money that they've spent and you know, the turnover of managers, you know, it's horrendous, really. And the fans, you know, the fans at West Ham are very, very knowledgeable, and the same at Everton, and they don't suffer fools, and they can make it, you know, made loud and clear on match days. And I think Everton deserve a lot better than what they're getting at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. And you're talking about obviously the old Tandoori Lounge, my neck of the woods in Hornchurch. Yes, good old was Dev on good form, or was he doing an evening with Alan Devonshire? Was he on good form?
He was absolutely brilliant, and when I introduced him onto the stage as such, I just said, "Listen, I can't see any more than the best player I've ever played with," and I've played with some great players, and that's all I needed to say, really, because he was outstanding. You know, in that '86 season, after the horrendous injuries that he'd had, people, you know, he'd lost a bit of pace, but when you listen to him talk, you know, he's very gentle the way he talks, and so opposite to me in a lot of ways, but he was an elegant and a devastating footballer travelling with the ball. He was unbelievable. You know, he give the ball to Dev, and he'd keep it for a good 20, 30 seconds, you know, running with it. And some of the goals he scored, he wasn't a big goal scorer, but the goals that he scored were outstanding. And I mentioned the one at Chelsea away when we won 4-0, and then there was one at Wrexham in the Cup. Parks, he rolled it out to him, and he went right the way through, and it rounded the keeper and slotted it. And I said, "Well, that's an assist by Parks, you know what I mean?" So, and it would be on today's game, but he was an outstanding footballer.
Yeah, and as you said, a lovely man as well. And I mean, and as I said, you're heavily involved in sort of the ex-player nights and stuff like that. And you know, it seems there's a certain generation that people still go and watch and like to listen to the stories. As you said, the Tandoori Lounge was a sellout on. I know we'll talk about the Orbit, but obviously on the 22nd, you've got Sir Trevor with Pie Mash.
I have to watch me P's and Q's then with Sir
Trevor,
like royalty, isn't he? The little scouser who swears quite a lot, and Sir Trevor, he doesn't swear, so it's going to be very interesting.
But people turn out, don't they? They love listening. I mean, I'm going to obviously Ian and E13 have got the Canyo night tonight. You know, 1,000 people at Sea Estate in a seat of it's mental, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
It's amazing over the years. Like they keep on turning up, and the West Ham fans are so loyal towards the ex-players, especially. And like you say, on match days, I think there's about 16 ex-players, and it's through the generations. Like you've got the oldest one is Stag. Now,
Well, it's Stag's birth. It's Stag's 80 on Monday.
Oh, is he
Do
brilliant?
you know that?
Yeah, well, we've had our ups and downs, me and him, and he says to me, "I never won anything when I was at West Ham." And he takes his watch off, and he's got it all engraved on the back.
Exactly.
When he showed it me, I grabbed it off and I ran out the lounge, and he must have thought he'd never see it again. I said, "I'll give you £1,000 for it." He went, "I wouldn't sell that for any money." But the man is so witty, and I love speaking to him. And he tells stories about Bobby Moore's time. He was a great friend of his, and he's just a very, very interesting guy, and he's great for his age, to be honest.
He is, and you're right. And he said, "You're right." I mean, the whole generation. Somebody who's Stag. Talk about Brian Deere. Sorry, somebody who's Stag. And it's generational with the ambassadors. You got Stag. You got Keith, who I love. I love Keith. Obviously, he's just crazy. Yeah. You got a lot of guys like yourselves, and with Slates and Georgie and Alan, and then you go to like sort of Matt Jarvis and Savon and Carlton Turns and Marlon. And it's just that great sort of, it's a really nice, but you all seem to get on. And there's one thing I sort of really sort of respected about the ambassadors was when Clyde Best turned up. And literally in that media lounge, because obviously I'm fortunate enough to sit there and have lunch with you guys, which is always crazy. And he walked in, and all of you to a man got up and like clapped when he walked in. And I was like, fucking hell, you know what I mean? It's just like,
when I sat with him, he was walking up and down the lounge, and my mate who was sat with him in the lounge said, "This is Clyde Best." And I said, "So," and then I got him over and sat, and he sat with us, and we got all photos and people coming out, because a lot of people didn't realise who he was. You know what I mean? And Bill Gardner was in the famous Bill Gardner. He was in the lounge, so I went over to Bill and went, "Bill, Clyde Best's over there," and he just went, "Where?" So I went, "There he is, over there on our table." He got up and he walked across, and then they had pictures together and they were reminiscing. It's just a great listen. All the lads, the ambassadors from each generation, they all get on well together, because what they've all done, they pulled on a West Ham shirt, and that it's a special thing to do. And even if you played 10 games or 1,000 games, it doesn't matter. And that it doesn't matter when we're all there on match days. We're all as one, and we're all there to support the club and do our jobs, really, mate. You know what I mean? I've just had a text come through. Make sure you give me a mention, Andy from the Pheasants. Andy, there you go, mate. You'll be on Russell's show.
Love it. That's the thing. I think, as I said, I think it's probably, I'd say probably James Collins is probably the last, I would say, maybe Nobes, where then from then on, footballers don't seem to have that sort of relatability, so to speak. It's almost where the game is almost too professional now. And as I said, I've always said I fully expect in the next 10 years you'll still be doing. I'll be down the Queens, and it'll be you, Frank, and Tony Cottee. It won't be Felipe Anderson with Sebastian Haller.
Well, Frank is like the way he is. Like last time he come down, he was had a few too many sherbets, but he hasn't changed. Put it that way.
No.
But yeah, I can understand what you're saying. I'd say James and Carlton have done a great night with them over in Stratford.
Yeah.
And you know what? So entertaining. They're bouncing off each other, and I think maybe they are the last generation because. Let's get it right. These players who are retiring over the last 5, 6, even 10 years, they don't want to be coming out, and it's sad really, because the fans are there, and maybe some of them will do it. You know what I mean? Just for this, for the notoriety, really.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's just one of those things. I just think there's certain. And I totally agree with what you said about the ambassadors and the fact that they're all so sort of friendly and respect each other, because you said we've had 100 players on the channel, ex-players, and I love speaking to the people who have played once, twice, 5 times, because to be honest, us as fans would probably have changed our lives and swapped it to do what they did once, and they've done it a dozen times or whatever.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head, because it's like. I was lucky enough to play for my hometown club, Everton, and scored against Liverpool in a derby, and maybe debut against Arsenal and the champions and scoring 2, and that was what I was dreaming of as a young boy. But obviously, it was a long journey back from Everton when they let me go, and from Oldham, non-league to Oldham, West Ham, Man City was the stepping stone to get back to Everton. And like I said, if things had been different, you know, and I don't think if Macari hadn't took over,
Mm.
I would have stayed at West Ham for the rest of my career because
Yeah.
you know, so settled, lived in Loughton. My daughter was well settled at the school, and it's just a matter of, you know, sometimes in life people get jobs that you've got nothing to do with, and you assess the person in charge, and you know that, you know, I'm very volatile at times in a way where I'll never work for somebody that I don't respect.
Yeah.
So I can't be, you know, at a club where, you know, I've only left 2 clubs, and that was one was West Ham with Macari, and one was Everton with Mike Walker. The only thing we had in common, me and Mike Walker, was our initials.
That's what I love about you guys. It's always you always got those great finishing lines where it's like the after dinner speaking, just those lines. You just pick them
Well, you know
out.
what he did, Russ? He put a big MW on the car park in the training ground. He had a big ego, Mike Walker. So the next day, all the great managers before him, Harry Katsick, Howard Kendall, and all the great managers, I just drove my car in, and Neville Southall was there, and he went, "You're not going to do that." I said, "Well, he doesn't come in till the afternoon. He's always on the sunbed." I said, "Oh, whatever." So I parked the car where it said MW. So that day, he come in early, and I got summoned off the training ground, and he went, "You trying to be funny, son?" I went, "What are you on about?" No, acting stupid. He said, "Move your car." I said, "It says MW, doesn't it?" I said, "Mark Ward." He went, "Just move it." And I said, "You're a bad manager." He said, "You've got a bad attitude, son." And I never kicked the ball for Everton Football Club after that. It was move on, Wardy.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it, mate. Someone's asked any good Ray, like we talked about Tonka just before, any good Ray Stewart stories about Tonka?
Oh, Ray, yeah. Well, he's the typical Scotsman. He's
Yep.
you know, likes a pound notes. And in fact, he just reminded me I've got to ring him back today because I obviously couldn't speak to him. I think he's down for a lot of the games this season now as an ambassador. I know it's a long way to come, but he loves going to West Ham. Ray was when I signed for the club. Obviously, he was my right back partner, and I played in every game in '86, and I think Ray played in nearly every one as well. So it was a partnership, and partnerships, you know, they grow as the season goes along. And he was really basic in a way where he said, "Mark, listen, when I get the ball, if you're short, I'll give you it." He said, and because Ray wasn't an attacker, he was a great defender. And one thing he was renowned for was his penalties. And when you think I can't remember the record, but he scored, I think he missed 2 or 3 out of 70 odd, you know what I mean? So, but Ray, I couldn't understand him half the time because of his very strong accents, but a great, you know, I think he was the vice captain as well. He was well respected amongst all the players.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. Yeah, he's a lovely guy. Lovely guy. As I said, it's lovely to see him on. You know, when he said when he comes down, it's great to see him as well because particularly because obviously the guy I do the channel with, Anton, he's Scottish as well, so they have this sort of like weird sort of like, you know, where they can just talk to each other and they can understand.
And you need an interpreter then, don't you?
Yeah, I just sort of have to get the subtitles.
Saying that.
Well, I was going to say, you know, he's got a really strong accent, and Ray has. I was like, okay.
Well, me and Frank a few years back, we done I think it was the West Ham TV commentary thing, and we had the coffee cups, but we had a few. It was beer in the coffee cups, so we'd had a few bevies before, and but our accents were that strong. They had to put all the subtitles on the bottom. Honestly, God, it's the first time ever. It was subtitles.
It's like they do that for Netflix, don't they? Sometimes you're thinking, I actually understand what they're saying here, but obviously it's because, you know, particularly like, I don't know, like Top Boy or something like that.
I got in a bit of trouble because I'd found this photograph of Frank before he signed for West Ham at St Mirren. He'd never seen nothing like it. His hair was as ginger as the ginge, and he had teeth like Shergar, you know, the racehorse. And I actually showed it to the lad who was doing the commentating with us, and he went, "Is that Frank?" And Frank looked at it and he went, "I won't say what he said because it was live, but he wasn't very happy, put it that way." He said, "You know why I went blonde?"
Yeah, exactly. Andy says that you and Dev are great on Wednesday. How humble was Dev? Loving your events. So here we go. Andy's a good fan of the older events, mate. He is I think he's very humble. Dev was very nice.
Mate, and you know what? They was talking about, you know, one of the questions was, "Do you think you could still play now, Dev?" And I went, "Oh, well, what? He'd be even better. He'd be worth. And what would he be worth?" And you know what? I said, "Dev, I'm going to ask you, what do you think you'd be worth now?" And he was that humble he couldn't say. So I said, 90, and then someone said 100, and it was that, that's how valued he was by the fans. You know what I mean? Easily.
Yeah, most definitely. And you talk about partnerships. As you and Tonka, obviously a partnership that's sort of forming at West Ham at the moment is, I'd say, maybe Alvarez and JWP, Edson Alvarez and JWP is like his midfield too, and as you said, he, the former captain, number 41, I don't like to say his name, but obviously he went, and we brought these two guys in, as well as, Mavropanos and Kudus, who hopefully we'll get to see on tomorrow. But, James Ward-Prowse, I mean, I think he's been an absolute revelation, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a great signing, and I think a lot of clubs would have signed him, and for West Ham to get him, that was a big accolade for them, because he's been a very consistent player at Southampton for all the years, and his delivery is unbelievable. When you think, Moyes, I think he's always, over the years, when he was at Everton for 10 years, the deliveries from the corners, and, they always seem to score a lot of goals. Now, we've got someone there that can put it right on a sixpence, and, we've scored one already. I don't know how many assists he's got already, but he's going to have so many assists by the end of the season. And Alvarez has come in, look, not out of place. And, at the end of the day, one player doesn't make a team.
No.
And I personally thought, well, we're going to miss Declan. It depends what they replace him with. And, listen, all the good sides over the years, one man doesn't make a team. And all the good sides. And I think, the people that have come in, the personnel, have done very, very well up to now. And that could be the making of this season. And we talked about, and I keep on going back to 86, and West Ham had a very mediocre season the season before. And John signed 2 players, me and Frank. But David being out for nearly a full year. So Alvin Martin always says, it was like having 3 new players, not 2. Because David being out, and he'd come back, and he was exceptional that season.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think, actually, to be fair, I don't think I realised, and obviously we've seen, I see how the team interact, behind the scenes, so to speak, when they and last year I didn't see the same team as a unit as I saw the previous seasons under Moyes, but this year I'm seeing, little things like, with it, obviously, the ground don't open for an hour and a half before kickoff, and under the first 2 seasons of Moyes, under Noble's stewardship, we'll say, they all walked around the pitch.
Yeah.
Had a walk around the pitch. Last season, nothing, until maybe the last quarter of the season, when we seemed to play well, and maybe it might have been with Mark's, coming on. I think maybe last year, I think we missed that sort of, that team spirit, which seemed we have back now.
Yeah, and it's like, every successful side, or sides that are playing well, they've got to have that team spirit.
Yeah.
That, you all got to pull together, no superstars. And I think Declan was a major influence on everybody, squad. And it was hard to replace. But like you say, Mark Noble's doing a great job behind the scenes. And like, I've done a few stadium tours, and he was the one that brought in, the Bobby Moore shirt in the dressing room before the game, especially for these foreign lads, which is a lot in the squad. And then it's as if to say, well, that is the epitome of the best player. Yeah. Like, we've all got to, try and get to his standards and his beliefs. And I think little things like that make a lot of difference. And surely, it'll be a massive, big positive for the club going forward. Whatever he does.
I totally agree. One of the players I think who's probably benefited from the former captain, number 41, leaving, has probably been, I'd say, Tommy Souček, who I've seen a lot more of him, like the old Tommy Souček, the last 4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the shackles are off a little bit for him. Maybe he can go. I don't know. He just seems to be a different player than he was last year.
Unbelievable. He got a lot of stick last season, but he's dangerous. He's very dangerous, ghosting in forward positions. He's deadly with his head, and he will put his head anywhere. You see him getting cut and big bumps all over him, but maybe he's given a lease of life to get forward now with Declan gone. And what I've noticed, the Chelsea game. Listen, West Ham were in the game right up to the half time, and Chelsea played very, very well. And Brighton had a massive stat on like 80%. But David Moyes has got his tactics spot on. And end of the day, what's going to happen on tomorrow? Man City are going to get all the possession, right? And West Ham are going to have to find the moments to counter-attack. And hopefully, the way they did in the last game was unbelievable goals. And the Bowen goal was absolutely exceptional. What a player he is.
Yeah, he is. I mean, yeah, he's a player who seems to be back to sort
And
of some levels.
He's improving. You know, I played in that position.
Of course.
And I was more like, played a lot deeper. And with Gerrard, he comes in on his left, doesn't he? And he is a very, very good finisher for a wide man. And, you know, we wouldn't be able to place up the middle. You know what I mean? If he'd had a few problems during the game. I think he's done it before, but he is a very, very good finisher, as we know.
He is. He seems to get back to his level. I have a few more questions, and I'll let you go because I know you've got a big, busy day. You got to travel back down tomorrow for the game.
Well, I know.
It's hard.
You know what's good though? I've got one of them senior rail cards. I'm 60 now, aren't I?
I was about to say you are 61 now, so you're qualify for a rail
sometimes
card.
Sometimes they ask me for it. You know what I mean? So you've got to show it like it.
Right, a few questions. Right, is it hard to see for older players like yourselves to see worse players on better wages now, and some getting into England squad without playing it to the same level? So obviously, you know, the money in football now. You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
is it like a? I mean, it must just be. Is it a bugbear? Or are you sort of?
You know what? I've never been. I'm not that sort of person. I've never been that way. You hear some players moaning about it, but you know, even in the players who were on the 70s weren't on the same money as us. I think what it is in the 80s, we were on better money than the lads who were in the 60s and 70s because that's the way it goes. But just after the 80s and when Sky got involved in the foreign players, it just went boom. It just went out of control, and it still seems to be. You know, the wages and the amounts of the transfer fees is ridiculous, especially with the Arab clubs now coming in. When you think 200 million for Salah that was offered, and it's ridiculous. But I'm a great believer. Like they all went to China, didn't they? Yeah. And I said that won't last because you can't beat your history and you can't beat the Premiership. And you can't beat English football. So the players that are going they're only going for one reason, and that's for the dough. You know what I mean? Massive wages. And it will never take off. It will never, ever compete with our game. And that's it.
No, I agree totally. And it's almost like they're trying to buy. So, you know, if you're you know, they were almost saying that I think they were trying to encourage people who are sort of League One, League Two standard here to go over and be on 100 grand and, you know, so they could build up their pyramid. But I mean, the money will still be there, but I think you're right. I think players will go there for a couple of seasons. Then
at the end, what we don't want is players going who are still young and you know, have got years left in the game. You know, you don't blame them when it happened in my day. A lot of them went to the States, didn't they? You know what I mean? For a couple of seasons, even a couple of West Ham lads. But at the end of the day, it's like I don't know. It's just one of them, and I think the money is really it's impossible to gauge, isn't it? When you think some of them are on 200 grand a week. You know what I mean? So that's
a few days.
2 years to make that. When I was at West Ham, it probably longer.
Oh, wouldn't mind that for a couple of days. Just a couple of days' wage would be all right. Maybe we'll do we'll become a El Ahid network for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I said to Frank, we're just talking. I said, imagine you'd be on about 200 grand now, Frank, a week. I said, what would you do with that? He said, I'd enjoy spending it, wee man.
I remember a night. I think you was at that. Yeah, you were. Pretty sure it was an 86 night, and there was a question. Someone asked a question. It was at the Rusk, and someone asked a question about players, what wages they were on now. Was it Jack Grealish had just gone to City? That's quite, still a City. And someone said, "How much were you guys on?" And I think it was Dicko basically said that it was something that was never really discussed in the. He didn't know what everyone else was on, and so. But nowadays you can open the paper and know that Salah's on 200 grand a week. And it's mental, absolutely mental.
Yeah, because it's when you sign a contract with the club, it's a private contract between you and the club. So it amazes me how they find out. Like like Dicko says, I wasn't bothered. I just wanted to go and play football. Yeah. And I remember after I signed, and there was no agent, and I was me and McAvenny were outside John's office, and he went Frank in first, and he had an advisor at the time. I went in, and he said, "That's what it is, son." And I just signed it. And after 6 weeks, my ex-missus wanted to go back to Liverpool, and John Ladd was brilliant. He went, "What?" He said, "I'll be at your house tonight at 6 o'clock, son. Make sure she's there." I'm coming around to see you. Anyway, bang, bang on the door, 6 o'clock. He walks in. She's crying and he goes, put the kettle on. So he goes, I'm telling you now, I spent £250,000 on this guy. To replace him now would have to probably cost me 3 times as much. What's wrong with you? So he started crying. He went, turn the taps off. He said, I'll give him another £100 a week. And it must be like another new pair of shoes or something. He was happy with that. And I wasn't bothered. I just wanted to play the game.
Yeah,
you know. So exactly. I went in the next day and signed another contract for another £100. 100 quid.
Yeah.
Well,
I remember, I think it was Tom McAllister told me once that when he signed for West Ham, John Lahr, they did it in the car outside his house, and he basically made him sign a blank contract. And he went, what? And he went, yeah, well, you trust me, I'll just put the right details in afterwards. Yeah. And he went, he never told his wife,
But John was a very clever man, you know what I mean? He was a great coach and a great manager. He was a legend.
Yeah, right. 2 more questions. I'll let you go, man. Barney Bubble. I'm worried about the condition of Alvarez for the travelling. Obviously, he was travelling with the Mexican squad. He came back. Yes, I think he trained yesterday. So do you think does Mark think it will likely affect his performance?
No, listen. If you sleep, it's like this. I think there's a lot made of it now, and we talked about the other night and how easy it would be to play on the pitches they are, and how they don't even have any mud on them after the game, and so these airlines and everything, you'd probably have a bed on the you know what I mean? It's first class. I remember Frank coming all the way back from Australia, playing for Scotland. I think he'd scored, and he'd been on the beer on the way home. And John said, "Frankie, you okay?" He said, "Not a problem." And he played, and he's probably man of the match. So it's all down to the individual, and it's all down into your mind. If you think you're going to be tired, you're going to be tired. So. I played in every game in '86. Never felt tired once. You know why? Because you were winning games.
Yeah, exactly. He's about to say keep me, and you particularly towards the end, you're only having like 2-3 days rest in between, weren't it? It was like rapid.
We never played for 6 weeks, did we? So we played Saturday, Monday, Thursday, Saturday. So on pitches that were not like they were now. So tiredness is always. I think it's a mental thing, and at the end of the day, once you played your game, you rest in between. So it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, last one, then we'll wrap up, mate. When Mark, when do you plan to come back to Ireland before the Europa Cup League final? I'd love to buy you a few Irish Hammers like to buy a pint or 5. There we go, mate.
Yeah,
when we get to the final, we'll be over there.
Guinness, as you know, and I've done a couple of events over there. I've done a great one for the 25th anniversary of the Dublin Hammers years ago. And you know what? They looked after me brilliantly. They all took me to the airport. I took my friend over there, Mick Tobin from Romford, and they had the Billy Bonds table, the Bobby Moore table, the Alan Devonshire table. They're fanatical West Ham fans, and great people.
It's crazy, mate. My brother lives in Dubai, and we went over to, and it was the last game. It was the Leicester City game, and I was invited to go to the Dubai Hammers, and mental.
Well, I'm in the process of trying to get over there. I've got a lot of friends out there. And it's the Dubai Hammers, and
they've got a whole like it's a bit like the O'Neill's bit. They actually have a whole. It's mental in the middle of like Dubai, and it's like you're walking around and just like there's like 20-30 West Ham shirts walking past you. And it's like
it's great because West Ham are now, especially after winning the European trophy last season. They're getting the recognition now from all around the world, even more so. And your United and your Liverpool's done it for years, and it's great that we won that European trophy last season. Let's hope we do well in the Europa League this year.
Yeah, totally right. And obviously, you'll be back tomorrow. You'll be back down here tomorrow at the Orbit.
Yeah, the Orbit, and it's like the podium. I'll be there speaking before the game. I'll be around there all before the game and after the game, and obviously be talking about my move from West Ham to City, the game and everything else. So, but the memberships are still there. There's not many left, and that gets you into the podium bars for the rest of the season. So get your memberships.
Yeah, check out Mark on Twitter or Facebook. He's got all the links. And obviously 22nd, they've got a night at the Orbit live. Sir Trev.
Pie and mash. They've got some gravy.
Northern in it, gravy in it. Rather than all right, mate. I'll let you go, bub. Cheers. Absolute pleasure, man. See you tomorrow.
See you. Cheers, mate.
Bye, mate. There we go. Good old Waldy. I'll kick him out so he knows how to get out. There we go. Good old Mark. Lovely, lovely man as always. Friend of the channel. As I said, if you are interested, if you the Orbit Live have it's the Podium Bar. They have Mark there and he hosts like pre-match and post game, and there's like a membership screen. Go onto Mark's Twitter, Mark Ward, obviously, Twitter, Facebook, and you'll be able to link it and all that type of stuff. As I said, on the 22nd, they got the Pie Mash night with Sir Trevor Brooking at the Orbit, which will be a really, really good night, no doubt. And keep an eye out for any other nights that Mark puts on as well. He's always getting involved. Love Mark. As I said, we'll be back in a bit with the David Moyes press conference, and then all the fun of the fair. That's tomorrow. There probably won't be a watch along tomorrow as Anton is driving down. Anton is driving down from Scotland with his mum and his auntie, I think. So he'll be doing that. So we'll be at the E13 event, Paolo Di Canio night. I believe there's some tickets still available, standard tickets, if you'd like to go and see Paolo Di Canio and Tony Cotti hosting an event at the Brentwood Centre tonight. Check out E13 events. There are plenty. I think there's only a couple of standard tickets left. So, great opportunity to see Paolo in it more than anything, and hear from the great man himself. And TC, that'll be a great night. And me and Anton will be there, and I'm sure there's guys from the West Ham Fan TV guys. I know Duke's going to be down there. There's going to be loads of people. So that'd be a good laugh. Looking forward to that. And as I said, if you're new around here, where the hell have you been? Where the hell have you been? Don't forget to like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Also, I'd like to thank our channel partners, Surfshark as well. There's a little description in the link below. If you use our link, you can get 3 months extra for free from Surfshark. What we'll do is I might just play a little video just so you guys know who Surfshark are, because you might have no clue. And I'll be back and then we'll wrap up. Hi everybody and welcome to the West Ham Network. Today's video is brought to you by our lovely friends at Surfshark. Surfshark are a VPN, a virtual private network, and the best thing about them is their data protection capabilities, which means I can look after my private messages, my photos, my videos, any other sensitive material I have, and they're protected, which is particularly useful if you're watching football on less secure websites. My favorite thing about them, and the thing which I think you guys are going to be most interested in, is the fact that you can change your location to anywhere in the world. So you can watch Netflix, BBC iPlayer, any other streaming services wherever you are. So maybe you're on the beach and maybe you want to watch Match of the Day. Obviously, that's restricted to BBC iPlayer UK viewers. One click of a button on Surfshark and you're on and you're watching Gary and the Gang. It's that simple. You can use it on as many devices as you like, even if they're being used at the same time. It's available on iOS, Android, Fire TV, etc., etc. And because the people at Surfshark are so lovely, they're giving West Ham Network viewers 3 months free when you use the code West Ham Network. Plus, they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee as well, so there's no reason not to give them a try. There's a link in the description. Thanks to Surfshark, and let's crack on with the video. Go, and it's almost like I was in the same t-shirt. I actually all wear is black apparently. But yeah, we'll be back later on with Dave Moyes press conference, and yeah, all that good stuff. Maybe we might even record a little bit at the Di Canio night. Maybe chat to some people. We'll see. Anyway, as I said, if you're new around here, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a subscribe. Also, don't forget, we have our membership program down there. You can click join and become a channel member. At the end of each of our shows, we like to thank all our channel members, and also they get entered into the prize draws. We've had the one for September. We'll probably do another one as well, because we've had a real rush of new members join. You get additional content and stuff like that as well. So to say thank you, we'll do another memorabilia draw as well. So hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, my friends, and let's give it to City. No, not give it to City. Let's take it. Let's take it to City, not give it to City. We don't want to give them the game, but let's take it to City, guys. Come on, much love. Bye-bye.
You'll see the difference. You know how. Nothing ever stays the same.